that, at, that. Two, t, oo, two. And, and. The, the. Of. So now I wouldn't really be saying all of these words. I'd be having the class say them, so they would be practicing for the activity. So I would just go through all of these, and obviously if any of them are having trouble with these words, we would do it together. And then, yeah, so there's about like 20 of these, and if the class is getting like at least 10 of them in a row, then we would move on to the irregular ones, which is good. Okay, we are going to be practicing sight words. So, for example, it.
Today we're going to go over irregular sight words. Irregular means a word that doesn't follow the normal phonemic rules. So the first one, we'll go through it, and then the student would repeat it, and so on for each word. So, ni, many. And this one's irregular because the Y makes this E sound, so many. This one is irregular because the K is silent, so it sounds like you skip the K and you go straight to the N, so it's no. And this just makes the O sound, no. Air. Air is the irregular part of where because it's spelled E-R-E, but you pronounce it air. Once. This one has a few irregular parts. The O makes a W sound, w, and CE makes the S sound, once. So then we would go and finish the rest of these as a class, and
So after we go over the sight words, the regular and irregular sight words with the class, and they all successfully are able to sound them out, we're gonna put this on the whiteboard and have each student, like one student, come up and underline a sight word they see, and we're gonna have the deck of Uno cards like here on the whiteboard, so that if they need to look through it as like a resource, they can to find the right sight words. So once there was a bear that wandered in the forest. So I'm gonna do the first sentence. So one student would come up and underline once, and then another student will come up and underline was, and then another student will come up and underline that, and another student will come up and underline in, and then another student will come up and underline the, and I think A too, and then Grace, do the next.
so for the second sentence, we're gonna have the same procedure. We're gonna go through the sentence, and as a student sees one of the words, they can come up and underline it. So the first one is many, and if they recognize that many is an irregular sight word, they can say that or write like irregular right there, just so the class recognizes that it's it doesn't follow those phonemic rules when we're pronouncing it. Another word is of, and that's another irregular sight word. And then another one is his. This one's regular, and two. And that one is regular as well.
Okay, so this is how Uno would be set up with the regular sight words. If there were 4 students, there would just be another deck dealt out to them. But each student can have 4 cards, and they can have it in their hands or they can have it out, whichever is easier for them. I would think if they're starting out, to have them all show, just in case like another student can help another one, like, oh, you have that card, whatever. So you can start by flipping it like regular Uno, and if anyone has R, the word doesn't matter the color, because same in Uno, doesn't matter. Like if it was a 5, it doesn't matter if you have a 5 or not. Like as long as it's this different colors, as long as it's the same word. So this student has an R, and the way to keep going is if there's another R, play it, but I only made 2 of each, so I know there's not gonna be another R. So you flip again, and then is, and if a student is having trouble saying a word or reading this word, as we're going around the room as teachers, we would take note of a student who is struggling trying to find a word or trying to match a word, and we would take note of that. That would be kind of like the formative assessment. So the student would have that, and then obviously like it can keep going, flipping the cards.
So this round of Uno, they're going to be playing irregular sight word Uno. All the words are the ones that we practice that make irregular sounds. So we start by flipping a card. Whoever has this match it down and say it so that they are practicing their sound. So 1 has the W sound. We continue. If nobody has another one, we would flip again. Ben, and they would match Ben, and keep going until we run out of cards. But this one is important for the formative assessment, to really pay attention to them while they pronounce these words each time, because they do have different sounds and the students might not have the easiest time pronouncing some of them if they're just looking at their sounds, or the letters and the sounds.
Okay, so this would be our follow-up activity kind of. So once all the students are done playing Uno, and all of them are able to pronounce the words well and read them well, match them well, basically the whole thing of Uno, me and Grace are gonna put the Uno cards just around the room. And for example, this one, if a student's near it, or if we can even do an activity like find an Uno card, find a sight word, they touch it and they spell it out. Fat. So that way, wherever we are, they're always able to see a sight word, practice saying it, and sounding it out.
Okay, here's another sight word. This one's irregular, and we're also going to have them placed throughout the room so that as they're going around the room, they come into this area, they find the Uno card and they tap it, they say it out loud, no, and we can also hear them throughout the day if they're pronouncing it right, and they're able to keep practicing it as the day goes on.